3 and 4. Task 3 being attention signal. So you have to decide upon a signal you can use to get the students' attention, teach them how to respond to the signal by focusing on you and maintaining complete silence. You need a signal to bring students from their individual efforts to having everyone focus on you so that you can give directions or provide instructions. To implement, all you need to do is identify what you'll use as a signal, and then you have to teach the students the signal is and how to respond to it at the first day of school, so from then on out they understand. And I personally would implement this by saying 1, 2, 3, eyes on me, and all the students' attention will be directed towards me, and then I can give directions give directions from then on out. And then I've seen this in many places. Some schools do show me 5, and then the hands go up, and then everyone is silent. And then task 4, beginning and end routines. There's multiple ones here, and we will be going through them individually. So the first one is entering class. The goal is to have students feel welcome and will immediately go to their seats and start on a productive task. You greet students as they enter, and you have a task prepared for the students so they can sit down and get to work on it. And then you make sure that the task is relatively short, and you have to make sure that the students can work on it independently. And then once you have finished taking attendance, you can give students feedback on the correct responses for the tasks, and then the students will grade their own papers. And then when you are at a break at the end of the day or just in between classes, you can mark it in the grade book, because once students know that the task is not counted toward their grade, they will cease to work on the task and just take it as a joke. How I would implement it is to just greet people or greet the students at the door, have a task on the whiteboard or smartboard at the front of the room, and then make sure that they understand from the first day on that they need to work quietly on the task. And I will have things written out so that they understand that they need to be quiet and they need to be working independently. I saw this last semester at Owatonna, where the teacher would wait at the door and make sure everyone got a brief interaction with her so she would understand where each student was at for the day and how they were feeling.
So when you have opening activities in the middle school, it's important that you don't waste your instruction time and just have them starting a task right away. So you're not calling out names, you just have a seating chart up, and then you aren't causing or bringing attention to students who are gone and wasting time by maybe routing people up by calling names. And it's also important that you have procedures in place for tardies, and it's important, first of all, that you teach your students these routines, whether it's you're using a binder and having them mark where they're coming from, what time they got to class, or you have in place the assignments that they have missed. And it's just important as well that the students who come in are not disrupting your class, and you can talk to them once independent work has started. And they also don't want your announcements and other tasks to take up too much time. It's important to keep a time limit on these things so that you can make sure that things are related to your class. Like in the text, it talks about keeping school announcements maybe for a homeroom time or something like that. Seeing these I remember in middle school, our math teacher would have us do math problems, and as we were doing those, she would have the seating chart up and do attendance. And I think that's something I would definitely keep in mind on implementing in my classroom someday. When it comes to dealing with tardiness, I really liked the idea of the binder that the article talked about, because everything's organized and it's easy to refer to. Okay. And in elementary, you gotta keep it short and sweet, but you want them to be engaged. You want to have it all planned out so that they know that they have the routine installed, and then you want it to be accurate and orderly, and you want to make sure that your students understand that their attendance and punctuality are important. So I think starting in the beginning of the year when you have your expectations would be a good way to have this discussion and then continue it throughout the school year. I remember having like star charts when I was a student. Like every day you were there, you got like a star. And I know that was a motivation probably for some people. And I definitely didn't like to miss school because I knew that there'd be consequences. So that would also cause me to motivate me and talk with my parents about it.
So for being prepared with materials, the goal is to make sure that the procedures for dealing with students who do not have materials and who are not prepared do the following, which is ensure that a student who does not have the necessary materials can get them in a way that does not disrupt or slow down instruction. And the number one thing to remember with that is that you clearly communicate what materials are needed to the student. But also, establishing reasonable penalties so that you can reduce the likelihood of the student when they forget the materials in the future. And you can do this by letting them go to their locker the first time and give them a tardy so that they understand what the consequence is there. Reduce the amount of time and energy that you, the teacher, spend dealing with the problem as much as possible. You don't want to waste class time dealing with that. And also make sure that your expectations on being prepared are set and conducted within the first week of school so they really understand what you're trying to get at.
After an absence, the goal is that students are able to find missing work without it involving a large amount of your time and energy. So the way the article describes doing this is having 2 boxes, one that says absent what you missed, and one that says absent assignments in. Assignments should be dated with the student's name on top, and the boxes should be checked daily and kept up with consistently. It can be done as a buddy system, so students are assigned partners, and if partner 1 is absent, partner 2 would collect all the assignments or sheets and place them into the folder. It is recommended that students have the same number of absent days to complete the assignments, so if a student is absent for 2 days, they have 2 days to complete their missing assignments. I would implement this by having the buddy system for older kids and possibly having a para help me for younger students just to keep it up to date. And the closest thing I have seen to this is teachers just having like a folder at their desk with what students missed or just by marking it on an attendance sheet.
All right, and so at the end of the day, when you're cleaning up and wrapping up, a clear procedure is really important. So that ensures that students don't leave early, that they're organized before they leave, the whole area is clean. There should be enough time where the teacher can give positive and corrective feedback, and that also allows the class to end on a positive note. So then as far as to implement this, you should be sure to allow plenty of time so the students aren't rushed and they can leave on a relaxed note. There should be appropriate time for these settings. So obviously if you are in an art class, you're going to want more time to clean up versus a math class. Elementary kids will need more time versus high schoolers, so keeping that in mind. And it should be consistent, so the routine should just be what you do every day. And so then moving on to the next one, like with the feedback, this is another example of how you can use this is allowing saying something to the effect of everyone's been using class effectively, like good job, appreciate that. You can work on turning in missing assignments, so decide when you're going to finish your homework, now or later, that kind of thing, so allowing that opportunity for the feedback. I've seen cleanup procedures in the schools of like in art classes of making sure all the paintbrushes are clean, making sure all the utensils are put away, that sort of thing. So a lot of different ways you can do that. And then finally for dismissal. So students should be dismissed by the instructor, not the bell. This just kind of reiterates that the teacher is the person who has the authority. They don't, the bell doesn't dismiss the students. So a good thing to keep in mind is that the students should be in their seats until they are dismissed by the instructor, which will be when the room is quiet and cleaned up. You can do this in a number of different ways in the classroom. You can do it by row, by group, all at once. I've been in a class where you line up at the door and the teacher will sign your exit slips. So that there's a lot of different ways you can implement it in the classroom. And this also has a major impact on the tone and environment of the class. So the dismissal should be calm, efficient, welcoming, and purposeful. So it all is a good way to wrap